friends to tell them you don't want to be alone. And you go and hit the bars to have a little fun. Do a drink or two, maybe blow a few to get your mind off feeling so blue. Just until you can't remember what you've done. Where we going? Where we going? Where we going? What have we done? What have we done? There's no more time to waste. There's no more time. We cannot in our haste commit these crimes. There's no more time.
No more time, no more, no more
There's no more time.
No more time, no more time, no more time.
There's no more time.
No more time, no more time, no more.
There's no more time.
No more time, no more time, no more
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Leadership 2020. I'm your host, Herky Cutler, and I'm really glad that you're able to be with me today here, either on the live show or watching it on a video replay. I hope you're doing well out there in this pretty still crazy time, isn't it? The pandemic is still here, and we're all kind of struggling to figure out how to get through it as best we can. I'm sure you're seeing those beautiful clouds on your screen right now. And if you've tuned into the last couple of shows, you've seen these clouds before. And I kind of want to start the show off by just grounding ourselves, by taking a moment out. Some of you may be multitasking, doing a bunch of different things at the same time. You might be listening to this while you're driving, or doing the dishes, or doing something in your office, or whatever. And if you can, I just want you to take a moment and stop whatever it is you're doing and just relax for a second. And just maybe close your eyes, unless you're driving. If you're driving, please don't close your eyes. And just think about all the things that you're grateful for in your life. And even if you're going through some difficulty now because of the pandemic, maybe you've had a situation where you've lost your job, or you've been cut back or laid off, or maybe you've actually come down with the virus, or have had the virus, or maybe you're in quarantine, or whatever it is, the situation that you're in, there's usually always something to be grateful for behind that. So just take a moment and take a deep breath. Feel your feet on the ground, planted firmly on the ground, or in your car, wherever you are, and be grateful. And then as soon as you're ready, come on back. Hey, it's great to be with you, ladies and gentlemen. I am Herky Cutler, and I'm your host for the Leadership 2020 series. And actually, we skipped ahead there for some reason. We're going to come back. This is the second last show for this series. The plan was only to take the series through the summer while this pandemic was going on. And then come September, I'm going to be producing and developing some videos and showing them on my new YouTube channel, which I'm quite excited about. It's called the Coaching or Training and Coaching Solutions, Herky Cutler's Training and Coaching Solutions. It's a new YouTube channel, and I just came through a 2-week YouTube Academy, learning how to sort of put together that channel and making it better. It's not finished yet by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm working on it. And the plan is to have a new video every week, something to do with leadership in the workplace that you can watch. And so I won't be having these live streaming shows for a while. They may come back later on down the line. But first of all, I want to put out a lot of content there for you on the YouTube channel. So that's the plan. And at the same time, I'm also learning how to use Kajabi. And some of you may, hey, Paula, nice to see you. I know, it's kind of cool, isn't it? Little diner. I like it. At the same time, I'm also jumping into something called Kajabi, which is a platform where I'll be developing and producing some online courses around leadership, career development, and other things. So that's sort of my plan for the next month, is to delve into that and get a first course out by the end of the month. So one more show after this in the Leadership 2020 series, and we might bring it back later on in the fall. We'll see. But for now, this is kind of where we're at. So if you're here, let me know where you're from, where you're at. If you're watching live on video, that's fantastic. Please make comments down below, ask any questions down below. All the comments and questions will be answered either during the show or after the show. I have to let you know that it's my company, Foothills Youth and Family Services Incorporated, that's bringing you this show. And it's designed to be an interactive show. It's, again, not designed for me to, just talk for an hour or whatever. It's designed to be something where you contribute, ask questions, make comments. If there are comments, we'll deal with those later on in the show. And today, our episode is 5 Steps to Being the Change. So if you're a leader, you've heard this a million times. Be the change, be the change, be the change. There's a famous quote out there. I think it's called, let me see if I got it right. Be the change in the world that you want to see, or something like that. And it's attributed to Mahatma Gandhi. And actually, from my research, I discovered that he didn't actually say those words, but it was taken out of context and changed around a little bit to make that particular quote. Paula's joining from Paula's Pantry Pickle Palace in Fort Saskatchewan, Alberta. Okay, everybody, say that 10 times. Paula's Pantry Pickle Palace in Fort Saskatchewan. Oh, that comment is not coming up very clear, is it? Let's just see what's going on here. We got to get this background. Just give me a second here. We're doing this on the fly here, folks. No effect, no background. And the text we're going to want to be okay, what's going on here? Okay, that's not really working now, is it? Okay. Can't do it right now. Sorry about that. So where was I? Talking about Be the Change. And how long that's been around and how many times you've actually heard it. So if everyone actually bought into that and thought that they were the ones responsible to be the change, then you'd think we'd have a lot of organizations that are running more effectively than they are. And my experience is that they're not. And I think it's a matter of leaders, walking that talk. Are they actually leading the change? Are they actually being the change? And are they actually asking for the things, asking their staff to do things that they would actually do themselves? And I think it's a really important issue because from where I sit as an organizational consultant, every time I walk into an organization and there's something that's not working well, it's usually a result of management. There's something going on at the management level, whether it's middle management, senior management, CEO, that creates a culture where things don't work properly. And every time I go into an organization that functions really, really well, and there's not, I have to say, in my world, there's not a ton of them that do that. And there's a lot of reasons for that, I think, especially in this fast-paced world, fast-paced, ever-changing world. But in my experience, the ones that are really running well are usually because there's great managers, great supervisors, great team leaders, great boss. It's no coincidence. So part of what I'm trying to do during these episodes here on Leadership 2020 is share some of my experience working in organizations for a long, long time and coaching leaders and helping leaders to just maybe try things that are a little bit different, because when you do the same thing, you get the same result. And if the results aren't satisfactory or aren't exemplary, then you need to try something different. And by the way, that's another sort of pet peeve of mine. And I was actually talking about this last night at a men's meeting that I was at. And I was talking about the fact that I really see the world kind of succumbing to being mediocre. You know, a lot of us talk about striving for excellence and being the best we can be and doing the best we can. And I think some of us, of course, do that. And there's some amazing things going on in the world for sure. But generally speaking, my sense is that it's okay to be mediocre. So, you know, if you make a promise about something and you don't keep the promise, it's not a big deal, or at least we sort of let it kind of slide, that it's not really important. You know, I said I was going to call you to have lunch and I never called you. I'm sorry. And that's a mediocre sort of response to showing up in life. And I think we let down our guard. And I think when that happens in organizations, it really manifests in the way we show up at work and the kinds of products and services that we deliver to our customers. And customers know this. I mean, how many times have you been with an organization recently where you've had poor customer service and maybe left dealing with that organization as a result of it? I know I have a number of times, because there's a lot of competition out there. I don't need to stick with an organization that isn't going to serve me. And so I'm going to keep looking for places that actually don't strive for mediocrity, but strive for excellence. And you can tell the difference. So in this session today, in this episode today, in terms of being the change, leaders need to lead by showing their staff and their customers that they're willing to do things differently to change what's going on, to continue to strive for excellence. Maintaining the status quo simply becomes ordinary after a while, because it's the status quo. And the only way to make things extraordinary is to change the status quo. And when you change the status quo, you change everything around it. And of course, change, how many of us feel comfortable with change? There's something about human beings, or maybe not inherently, but something about us in terms of the way we've evolved, that change is difficult for a lot of us. And it's hard to adapt sometimes to new things that are going on. And not everyone is like that, of course. A lot of people, they strive, they look for change, they excel when things are always changing and moving and being different. But others don't. They want that comfort of going to work the same way every time, each day, and coming home that their house is a certain way, the way they left it when they went to work in the morning, and things like that. Imagine if you went to work in the morning, when you got home, your kids or your partner had rearranged your entire house and changed all the furniture around and changed where everything was in the cupboards. How would you feel about that? You'd probably go crazy. I don't know a lot of people in my life that would come home and go, oh, this is cool, and then have it happen again the next day. How would you feel about that? It's not easy. And yet change is inevitable. It's the only thing in this world that's inevitable. Everything will change at some point in time. And so when we're looking at it from an organizational point of view, leaders need to be cognizant of that. And so they have to be ready for it. So today I'm going to share a very simple 5-step plan to being the change if you're a leader. Now, it's so simple that you might go, well, this is ridiculous. I know this is so common, and I get that. And simple doesn't mean not effective. I'm a musician and a songwriter, and some of the best songs ever recorded were really simple songs in terms of melody and chords, 3 or 4 chord songs. There's some, don't get me wrong, there's some incredible music out there that is very complicated and has lots of chords, jazz music, classical music, that sort of thing. But there are also some of the songs that you know and love are probably 3 and 4 chords, very simple, yet powerful and long lasting. They've been with you for your whole life. So just because you may have heard of all these steps, and I'm sure you have, there's not going to be rocket science here, but hopefully it's going to be something that's going to kind of hit you between the eyes and go, oh, okay, I actually need to do this in order to be the change in my company or my life. And I think, when it all comes down to it, when we sit back and let life happen to us, that's when we become more of a victim, I think. And there's a lot of people walking around with that victim mentality. And again, I'm only speaking from my frame of reference, my world. Things happen to them. It's going to rain today, so I can't do anything. I have to stay inside and stay home. Things that are outside of themselves control what they do and who they are and how their life manifests. They just their life is reactive. They react to situations, they react to other people, they react to the weather, and they don't initiate things. And I don't know. To me, that's a mediocre life. And again, I'm making a judgment here. Maybe I shouldn't, but I find the best things in my life happen when I initiate something, when I take the steps, take a risk, step out of my comfort zone, do something different, learn something new, initiate change, be the change. That's when my life becomes more interesting and exciting. And it's not ordinary because it's not the status quo anymore. I mean, this whole example of getting into all this technology that I've done to learn how to do these live streaming shows, changing my YouTube channel, doing the Kajabi thing next. It's all me understanding that my world is going to change. It already has because of the pandemic, but it's going to change down the road, maybe forever. I don't know that. But I need to do something proactively in order to make sure that I'm still going to be viable in a new world. Or I could sit back and complain about the fact that there's a pandemic and I can't go out and speak to audiences anymore or play music for audiences and become a victim. The pandemic got me, even though I didn't get sick from it. All right. Let's have a look at this 5-step plan, shall we? So 5 steps to being the change. Cool little cartoon. All right. Step number 1. If I can get this to move forward, it'd be cool. Oh yeah, we got to do it this way. So you have to notice something in your life that needs to be changed. Now, how simple is that? But how many people do you know of that walk around life and don't realize that something's wrong, don't realize that something needs to change? And they're sort of walking around unconscious, not thinking about the things that they do or how those things impact people. If you're in an organization and you're an organizational leader, sometimes you're so busy sort of doing all kinds of things that you don't really pay attention to what's going on around you. And so you may not be aware of the fact that something needs to change. And sometimes we're lucky enough in our lives to have people who will smack us on the side of the head and go, hey, you need to change your behavior, or you need to change doing that because this is how it's impacting me, a partner or a family member or a friend, or how it's impacting other people in your world. So you have to understand that there needs to be a change in the first place. And that means being really conscious and reflective, starting to look at your life, starting to look at your organization. What are the things that are going really well? What are the things that aren't going so well? What are the things that staff have been telling me that I need to change? What are the things that customers have been saying to me that I need to change? What are the things that I feel myself that I need to change? And maybe even if things are going well, it doesn't mean we can't shake them up and do something a little different. So I think it's really, really important to make sure that you're paying attention to what's going on in your life in your organization in order to affect some change. So that's step number 1. Step number 2, also very simple, isn't it? Choose the way you're going to change it. How many people do you know in your life that say, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to go on a diet, I need to get a new car, I need to be more intentional about how I live my life, I need to spend more time with my family, I need to get these reports done. So there's an awareness there about needing to do certain things. And then from those people that you know, and this could be yourself as well, how often do you not follow through on the things that you say you need to do to make change? Well, I don't know about you, but in my life, one of the things that I deal with on a regular basis is the big P word, the procrastination word. And it was such an important part of my life that 20 years ago, maybe 25 years ago, I actually developed a 7-step anti-procrastination program to help me get over being a procrastinator. I actually taught this program along the way as part of my training. So that's how impactful being a procrastinator was in my life. And I was just noticing that, I had all these things that I needed to do, and I kept telling myself I was going to do them. And I also told myself that I wanted to do them. And yet I didn't do them. Or I started them. How many times have I started a diet in my life? I can't count the amount of times. I just can't. I used to be a smoker. And I probably quit smoking 100 times before I actually quit smoking for good. I need to quit smoking. And so I looked at, this step 2. I chose the way that I was going to change it. So whatever I did in those days, I never took patches or, Nicorest or any of those kinds of things. I just tried to quit smoking by stopping, throwing away my cigarettes and then just stopping. And it didn't really work 100 times. So it's that intention about, I recognize this needs to change and I have to choose the way I'm going to change it. It doesn't mean that you don't change if the initial thing that you choose to change doesn't work, you don't try something else. Of course you do. As long as you're still committed to changing that thing or that behavior, because that's really the important thing. That's the bottom line. I don't want this in my life anymore. I don't want this in my organization anymore. I want to change it. I need to change it. So I have to choose a way. So it's taking that step. It's that action. And how many of you have been in the situation where, you have this, what seems to be a mammoth task in front of you? For me, it's taxes. I hate doing my books. I have to do my own books in my company, and I don't do anything for an entire year. I do my books at the end of December, and I go back through I do them in January of the next year or February before I have to turn in my professional, taxes. And I go back through the entire year. It drives me crazy. It takes me so long because I choose not to do it month by month or every quarter. which is something that I know that needs to change, and I haven't figured out how to do that yet, other than doing it once a year. I get them done every year, but I go through this whole process that, as soon as I get them done, I say, I can't do this again. I have to, I'm going to do it every quarter. In 3 months, I could do 3 months at a time, and I just don't do it. So, here I'm the one who's teaching you this, and I'm certainly not perfect at this all the time, but I'm aware of it. And some people aren't even aware of it, and I think that's the key here. So it's taking that first step. So I do know, for example, that when I have to do my taxes, the key to getting them done is actually taking that first step to getting them done. For me, it's getting my file folder out with all my stuff in it. And I put that on my desk and I leave it there. And that's the first step. And I know I'm going to have to open that file as the next step. And then I'm going to open my computer. I have another computer where I do the taxes on. And that's what's going to happen. So that's a really huge thing for me, is to choosing that way. Step number 3. Again, this is simple stuff, isn't it? Acting on the choice and making it happen. How many of you make a decision? How often have you made a decision about something that you thought you needed to change and then you didn't act on it? I need to lose weight. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go on a diet starting on Monday. Absolutely going to go on that diet. Need to lose weight. My clothes aren't fitting well anymore. Monday comes, you don't go on the diet. What happened? You're in an organization and you choose that as a leader, you say that we're going to implement a new way of how we keep track of our time, because I'm not happy with the way employees are keeping track of our time. I don't know what they're doing with their time. And I want to find out some other way where I can make sure that they're being accountable for the amount of time they're spending on their job and what they're doing. And so I come up with a plan, and I don't implement the plan. And I don't implement the plan for a number of reasons. It might be more difficult. Maybe the staff haven't bought into it. Maybe they think that if I implement this plan that I don't trust them. Whatever it is. But if you're going to recognize that something needs to change, and then you're going to make a decision that you have to change it, and you choose a way to make that happen, then do it. It doesn't mean that it's going to be the right choice. But if we don't do it, that's where the procrastination really kicks in, isn't it? Maybe I don't really need to go on a diet. Maybe I don't need to go on a diet right now. Maybe it was always next Monday. And even for me, when I do the diet thing, it's always a Monday. There's something I've talked myself into the fact that if I'm going to start a diet, it always has to be on a Monday. It can't be on a Saturday, because it's not the beginning of something. Monday, I see the beginning of a week. A new week for me is Monday. So that's when I start my new diet. How ridiculous is that? All right, that's step 3. Step 4 is celebrating the fact that you're actually doing something about it. And this is such a simple thing, and I can't tell you in this day and age how often I see people accomplish something and they celebrate it for a minute, if that, and they're on to the next thing. What's next? What's the next mountain I'm going to climb? This was a good one. What's the next goal on my list? Cross off that one. What's the next one? It happens all the time. And I found myself sometimes, I'm with a bunch of people, sometimes with this happened recently with men's team. We accomplished something that was pretty cool. And we were talking about the fact it was on a Zoom meeting, and we were talking about the fact that it happened and we were really proud of it. And then someone said, yeah, so what are we going to do? What are we going to do now? What is this need that we have to go on to the next thing so quickly. You know, when that happens in an organization, people never get to feel grounded. That cloud slide that I play for you at the beginning is done for a purpose. When leaders aren't grounded, guess what? There's a good chance that the organization will not be grounded, and the staff within that organization won't be grounded. I'm watching Designated Survivor on Netflix now. I don't know if I've told you about my Netflix addiction, my recent Netflix addiction. It's maybe not addiction, but it's certainly there. And I'm watching it every day, every second day. So here's what happened. My wife and I used to rent videos, or not rent videos, but take videos out of the library. They were free. We don't have TV. We haven't had TV for years. So we get videos from the library. The pandemic came, excuse me. The pandemic came and the library shut down. So we decided that we would try Netflix. Never had tried Netflix before. So we tried it, got hooked on a series or two, and now I'm watching this one called Designated Survivor, which is with Kiefer Sutherland. And it's a story about him becoming the president of the United States. So whether I haven't even done the research to see if there's actually such a thing, but apparently there's a designated survivor who doesn't attend any of the meetings in Congress or anything like that in case the president gets killed and other members of his party, the vice president gets killed, other people get killed. And there's this one person who's been the designated survivor who becomes president should all the other people in line become killed. And in this show, that's what happens. There's a bomb goes off at Capitol Hill, kills the president and all the people in line to be the president. And so Kiefer Sutherland becomes the designated survivor. So every show, there's like, you know, in a 42-minute show, there's like 13, you know, earth-shattering things that have to be dealt with in the show. And I'm sure you can think of all the possible scenarios if you haven't seen the show, but what could go wrong in the world that the president of the United States has to deal with. And so, of course, things get dealt with, and they get dealt with, and there's no celebration time. It's what's next. You know, it might be a smile, a thank you, a shaking hands. They applaud if they're in the command and control center and they just did something, you know, military wise that they were successful at. They applaud, and then something else comes up. Another issue, another thing that needs to be dealt with, and there's no time to celebrate. So it almost becomes this treadmill that we're always on. What's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? When do you stop? You stop when you die. Well, that's an option, I suppose, for people to just keep on going, just keep on, you know, making lists, checking them off, and then you're dead. And if that's a satisfying life for you, then I'm not going to judge that it isn't. But I do know that in organizations, when that kind of thing happens, people tend to not feel grounded. They don't get to just sort of breathe and go, wow, that was really fantastic. Let's revel in that for a while. So that's step 4. And step 5, perhaps the most important one of them all, is to inspire others by sharing what happened to you or what happened to your organization. And, you know, it's interesting that some people in Canada, you know, Canada has this, whether it's a real thing or a myth, but this notion that Canadians are more polite than people in other countries, and they don't like to talk about themselves as much. They don't brag about themselves. I certainly know people who aren't like that. So it's not, it does, if that's a trait, it doesn't go through all 35 million of us, that's for sure. But inspiring other people by talking about your story is not bragging, depending on what the intention of the sharing is. If the intention of the sharing is to bring light to you as somebody who's a wonderful person who's achieved this sort of thing, so that you can be in the limelight, so that people can, worship you, well, then you have to think about whether or not that's a good reason to do that. And that's when some people might think that you're bragging or whatever. However, if the intention is to legitimately inspire others, that maybe somebody can learn from what you just experienced, that's a completely different situation. Completely different situation. So I think it's really, really important that we need to inspire others by sharing what we've learned. And in an organization, depending on what the culture of the organization is, it's interesting. I've been in organizations where the culture is very much one of competition, where people, they talk about what they accomplished in order to compete with other people within the organization, to sort of say, I'm better than you. I did this and you didn't. And that creates all kinds of tension, of course. And as a leader, you need to be aware of that. Whereas if the culture is one of a spirit of cooperation, where you share your wins so that other people can celebrate the fact that the organization as a whole had a win, and maybe somebody can learn something from that win to help them win in another situation that they're working on at work, that becomes something pretty cool. It's synergistic. One feeds off of another, off of another, off of another, and things just spiral and things become really cool. So think about whether or not you're sharing these things. So if you just joined us, folks, I'm Herky Cutler. This is Leadership 2020. We've been talking about the 5 steps to being the change if you're a leader. And you can certainly go over the video if you just joined us and check out what those steps are. But essentially, it's realizing that, a change needs to be made, whatever that change is, whether it's a personal change, an organizational change, change in your life, and then making a choice to change it, acting on that choice, celebrating the fact that you act on it and hopefully were successful. And then if you were successful, even if you weren't, inspire other people by sharing what your journey was around that change. And we see this all the time, don't we? On social media, somebody talks about something that they've done, and it inspires us to maybe do something similar. Or if somebody tried something and it didn't work, then it teaches us a lesson. Maybe we shouldn't go about it that way because it didn't work for them, although what works for one person may not work for another. So those are the 5 steps to being the change. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, please share them now. It'd be a good time to talk about those. If you're here live or if you're here looking at the video replay. Again, this program is brought to you by my company, Foothills Youth and Family Services Incorporated. Would love for you to like my Leadership 2020 Facebook page. Also, would love for you to subscribe to my new YouTube channel. I talked about this at the beginning of the show. It's called Herky Cutler's Training and Coaching Solutions. So if you just go Herky Cutler YouTube in Google, you'll find me. And then in order to subscribe to YouTube these days, you actually have to watch some of the video. You can't just go on and hit the subscribe button and leave. YouTube is kind of conscious of people doing that, and they actually think if you're going to subscribe to somebody, then you should watch a little bit about what they're putting out there. Boy, this throat is bad today. And as I also mentioned at the beginning, my intention is to put out new videos on that YouTube channel every week about leadership. There'll be short videos, maybe 3 to 10 minutes on different aspects of leadership, just content that hopefully will inspire you to do something a little different as a leader in your organization or in your life. And that's kind of the next step for me. All right, who's here? Just have a look at these. Oh, we got Paula here. Paula, you're such a great fan. I think you've been to every show that I've run. That's really fantastic, and it's always nice to see you here. So, how's the pickle business? So, Paula's saying here, there are about 1 million things on my list of things I need to change, and they all feel like a top priority. I find I often get overwhelmed to paralysis and don't act on any of them. Yeah, that's a great point. So if I were you, Paula, I would ask myself a couple questions. And by the way, this very same thing happens to me as well. I do have things on a list, and I do sometimes get overwhelmed by all the things that are on that list that I think that I need to accomplish, say in a day or a week or a month or whatever. And so I start. This is when I ground myself, when I start feeling that anxiety about being overwhelmed. And this is when I ground myself and take a deep breath and say, okay, what's going on here? Why am I feeling overwhelmed? Why do I feel that I need to accomplish all these things at once? And knowing me, I'm not a great multitasker. Whether it's my gender or whether it's just me, I'm not a great multitasker. And so I can't do a lot of things at the same time. So I have to focus. And so I pick one of those things on that list, Paula, and sometimes it's the next one on the list, depending on how linear I am that day. But if I'm not linear, I might just do this and, land my finger down on something and go, okay, that's the one I'm going to work on right now. And then I will give myself permission to work on that for an hour. And, I'll do the hour, and then I'll analyze, check on what did I accomplish? Do I still want to work on this thing? Do I want to switch to something else? Do I need to finish this? Some things, of course, on that list have a timeline, especially if we're doing them around work. And so you might have to put more time into something. But I always, at least I try to now, always celebrate that hour. That was pretty good. That was cool, what I got accomplished in that hour. I feel good about myself, and maybe reward myself for that. So for me, that might be just going for a little walk. It might be picking up my guitar and playing music for 10 minutes. It might be going upstairs and saying hi to my wife. It might be going outside and looking at the garden. It might be going on a bike ride. Any of those things, right? And then once I do that, I celebrate the fact of what I just did. That was a beautiful bike ride. It's so gorgeous out. I really enjoyed that. And now what's next? What am I going to do next? Am I going to keep on going with that thing I started the hour with, or something else? And so it's breaking it down into little bite-sized pieces. And I probably told the story in one of these episodes about my friend and colleague, Martin Parnell, who ran 250 marathons in a year. And he's an acclaimed speaker and author now. And, in order for him to do that, if you could imagine running 250 marathons in a year, in order for him to do that, he had to break down his life into bite-sized pieces. And he calls his strategy the 10-minute, I don't know what his actual name, I don't know what the actual title is, but he lives his life, or during that time, he decided he was going to live his life in 10-minute bites. He sometimes would wake up in the morning in excruciating pain, after marathon 127 in the year. This is in 1 year. Like, it's almost, it's more than one every 2 days. And so he'd be in excruciating pain. And he'd tell himself, okay, I don't want to run another race today. I'm just too tired. I'm in too much pain. But, for the next 10 minutes, I know I can pull myself out of bed and brush my teeth. And he would sort of do that all the way along till he talked himself into getting in his car and just driving to the run site with his, his gear on. And then when he started the race, I can run for 10 minutes. And if I want to give up, I can give up. And he would just keep doing that until the race was over. And that's how he accomplished running 250 marathons in a year. So I've adopted some of his strategy around 10 minutes. I sometimes extend it to longer. But I always remember that I don't have to do everything on that list all at once. And, the other question I would ask myself is, who am I doing this for? And sometimes the answer is, I'm doing it for other people. And not that that's a bad thing, because as a leader, we're responsible to other people, and we want to do things for those people to make things better for them, better for the organization. But if we're doing it for other people so that we can be liked by them or revered by them, then I'm questioning why I'm spending a lot of time and effort on that particular task. You're welcome, Paula. What are some strategies that you use? I'm sure that you use some as well. Oh, yes, you do. This would be a good time if we actually could talk about that, right? You should come on the show next week, and we can have a conversation through here, and we can talk about some of the stuff that we've done in this series. So, leaders, you need to be the change. You need to walk the talk. I have this image in my head. I've always had it ever since I was 12 years old, and the image is my dad, who passed away at a young age, had a heart attack, several heart attacks, died when he was 55. And part of the reason why he died was he was a smoker, a pretty heavy smoker, and I was too. But the image is at 12 years old or even 11 years old or whatever, my dad telling me, son, don't ever smoke. It's really bad for you. And he told me this with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. That's not being the change. That's not walking the talk. That's thinking that people should do what you say they should do, but not you doing what you think they should do. And I see a lot of leaders doing that stuff. I'm in these two worlds. I'm in the business world. I'm in the career development world. I'm going to switch to the career development world in a second, and then we'll get to that comment, Paula. So I train career development practitioners, people who are working with unemployed people. And I find that a lot of career development practitioners are so quick to give advice to their clients about doing certain things that they would never do. So, for example, they say, well, you might have to move to get this job. And, if you're going to have a value that you're not going to move, you're going to limit yourself in terms of the type of work that you do. And then I would hear that, and I would ask the career practitioner, are you willing to move for a job? And they go, oh, no, I'm not. Well, if you're not willing to do something that you're giving advice for your clients to do, there's a disconnect there. And clients will feel that. When you tell your clients that they have to take risks in order to get work, and you don't take any risks in your life, clients will feel that, and they will not believe you. There will be a disconnect there. It's the same with organizational leaders. Listen to the things that Trump is saying, for example. I listen to them a lot, and he says a lot of things that he doesn't do. So if he doesn't do them, he's like my dad. He's smoking a cigarette and telling me not to smoke. He's telling me I need to move when he wouldn't be willing to move somewhere. And this is happens everywhere that I see in my world, in my organizational world. So keep that in mind. So Paul is saying here, she started to giving myself a time limit for different activities. Cool. Like today, I gave myself this hour to label pickles while I joined you, and then back to other work. Awesome. So after this show and after your pickle labeling, how are you going to celebrate that? You need to celebrate your pickle labeling. Maybe you need to write a pickle labeling song, little jingle that you can sing along when you pickle labels or label pickles. or something like that. So yeah, that's a great strategy, Paul. Absolutely. So breaking things down into bits and bytes, I think, is a really good idea. But leaders, I'm going to leave you here because there isn't anybody else on the line right now, which is fine. If you're going to watch the replay, please do that. Paul's going to have some coffee after she labels pickles and enjoy. Maybe have all those jars out in front of you and just really enjoy how those jars look with the new labels on them. Be great. Do you have a picture of a pickle label that you can put on here? I'm not sure if that works or not. You can put your pickle label on there. By the way, if you need pickles, get a hold of Paula because she makes great pickles. I've tried them. They're awesome. And she makes lots of other good things too that she sells at farmers markets and things. So leaders, just to sum up here, if you want things to change, you need to be the change. You need to instigate. You need to initiate. You need to be the one to lead the way, to show other people that you're willing to do things that you're asking them to do. And that's the only way that I think things will change for the better and will change for the long term. You have to model that behavior. And it's not easy. It's not easy, especially if you're not used to doing it. So look at that plan. It's such a simple plan, but it's so powerful. If you think about it and really dig deeply into it, it's incredibly powerful. Paula's saying she can't add a photo onto the comments, which I thought, yeah, I'd love to see one. And then I'll post it. I'll post it on the site, Paula. That'd be great. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining, whether you're live and you haven't said anything or whether you're watching this on video replay. Come back next week. I don't have actually a title for next week's episode yet because I'm not sure what it is. I haven't decided what it is. It's going to be the last one in this Leadership 2020 series for the summer. And then, as I mentioned, in September, I'm going to start producing videos on my YouTube channel for you, free content that'll hopefully give you some tips and tricks on how to be a better leader. And when you make comments, even on those videos, I'm going to read them, I'm going to answer them, and I'm going to use those comments and questions to create new videos. So if you want something that you want me to cover in terms of leadership and being in the workplace, let me know. And I will definitely put a video together to make that happen. So thanks again. Have a fantastic day. Stay safe and take good care of yourself. Bye-bye.
There's a beat that just won't quit. Makes it hard to sit. You gotta clap and tap your feet. It's got a rhythm that can't be beat. You feel it deep down in your bones. That good old rock and roll. Well, your body starts to shaking and your heart begins to pound and you feel your belly aching and you really love the sound of that good old rock and roll. It'll make your jelly roll. There ain't nothing that sounds so sweet.